January or February. You're complaining about November.
That I should delay till March.
That, if you find this, you blind.
Okay. So Rav Sharaga abruptly finished this tshuva yesterday by basically saying that you have no right to bring your sick kid to daycare if because number one, it could be bad for the child if they run a risk of getting more sick because they're not being taken care of properly. And number two, you have no right to infect the other kids who are going to in turn infect their parents, and the teacher's going to get sick. So, and you're like a shliach lidvar avera, but it's like you're sending a minor. So when you send a minor to do an avera, it's traceable back to you. Okay, now let's just take a look at this footnote. The first footnote, he basically said, you're not allowed to cause damage, even causative damage, through grama. And he says, K'di'isa lahedja b'bava vasra, zot omeret grama b'nezikin aser ayin sham. That causing damage is aser, even though you can get off in a mortal court. V'ita b'bava kama dahamasik b'grama chayv b'dinei shamayim. As we know, what you're doing is wrong, and the heaven will hold you accountable. V'ayin od berama shekasab da'afal pisha hamazik b'grama pater midinei adam. Even though when you cause causative damage, you're going to be exempt from a mortal court, mikol makom mikri Russia, you're still called a Russia. V'lichora yesh leha'ir lefi ma shekasavnu le'el b'shem hamamiri v'hamarit v'chazoni she'im hizik b'grama b'li kavana la'azik pater afilu midinei shamayim ayin sham. We had noted above, if those of you might recall, that if a person does causative damage unknowingly without intention, then he's not liable, midine shamayim, that heaven will not hold him liable. It was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't do it directly, and therefore I'm off the hook. And so too, maybe you could argue here too. I bring my kid to daycare, to the gan, and he gets one of the other kids sick, and it causes a loss of money because now his parents are sick and they got to stay home from work. It wasn't my intention to cause harm. It wasn't my intention to get anyone else sick, so maybe I should be off the hook, even midinei shamayim. However, that's probably not the right way to think about it, because F. Shalomer de Gamdla Poskim Anal, She'in Chiyuv Tashlumi Mikol Makam Asr Lechatchila Lachnis et Atmo Lamatzav Kazeh Sheyuchal Ligrom Nezek La'acher. But if you know that such a damage is possible to occur, then even those more liberal poskim would still say that what you're doing is prohibited, Afal Pi She'en Lo Kavan Alazik, even though it's not your intent. But if you know that there's a likelihood that this is going to happen, even though you hope it doesn't happen, even though you have wishful thinking, that's not enough. And so Okay, and that's the import of the Gemara as well. And therefore you can't send your child to gan. So we'll get to that another time. Okay, next footnote.
So, I mean, could you craft a case where the kid wasn't that sick when they left the house, but they got more sick at school?
Sure, that's
So then
that I think would be more reasonable, where the parents said we didn't realize how sick he was.
Yeah.
And then you'll be off the hook. But if you know your kid is sick, he's got the boogers coming down his nose, and you know he's definitely he's definitely got some kind of viral infection. You should, yeah. That's just the way it is. Right. That's true. And what would you say? Like, what would you say now about another scenario? What if everyone else in the gan brings their sick kids to the gan? So do I have to be the friar, as they call them in Israel? That I'm not going to let my kid go because I don't want to infect other kids, but my kid got sick from a dozen other kids that are in the gan. I'm not sure whether that would be a mitigating factor. Let's take a look at the next footnote. So he says, if you send a child who doesn't have enough cognizance, he's under the age of bar mitzvah, and you send him to do an avera, you're liable for that avera, unlike other cases where you send an adult to do an avera. The Ramah says that if you send someone who is not liable for that action to do an avera, then it is traced back to you. אבל השח שם הרich בזה, דאין שליח לדבר עבירה, הגזירס הכסו, ועל כן לעולם אין שליח לדבר עבירה, אף על פי שהשליח לאו בר חיוב. Shach disagrees, and he says, even if the person that you've dispatched is not liable, you're still going to be off the hook. And he goes into this discussion of whether a katan falls into that category or not. Let's see. Okay, he basically just wants to argue that whether you argue it's shaliach lidvar avera or not, by sending a sick child to a public area, you're placing a hazardous, you're putting hazardous material. It's like you're taking a bag of broken glass and putting it in the middle of the classroom, right? It's no different. That's the problem. So even if it's not technically shliach lidvar avera, it's still going to be problematic. Okay, I think we should go on. Next, Tvia al malon shehigish mazon mikulkal. Okay, a claim against a hotel that served spoiled food. Okay, so what's the shaila? Adam shahalach lebeit malon. A guy stays at a hotel. After eating the food, he got terrible stomach pains. The chala b'meshach kama yamim was sick for a few days. V'chein kara la'od kama anashim sheshahu b'veit hamalon. The same happened to a number of other people who stayed in that hotel. Ever happened to you? Food poisoning? It happened at my wedding.
Restaurant.
Oh, you
Really?
Is this
Yeah,
one that I
everyone?
paid cash for?
It happened. I got sick at the night of my wedding. I
Oh,
got food poisoning. What'd you just call me?
Sorry, nothing.
Yeah,
What about your wife?
she was fine. She didn't eat. She was too nervous. I pressed.
Rough and down.
I said, "Hey, this is my wedding. I mean, food looks good." Yeah,
LA?
yeah.
Who was the caterer?
It was actually the hotel. It was the Century Plaza Hotel. Very fancy hotel.
Did anybody else at the wedding get sick?
Yeah, a number of other people.
Was it like chicken or something that gets?
Yeah,
sick?
it was like stuffed chicken,
Yeah, so
What do they
there
do for
was.
compensation?
So the insurance company paid us, and my wife and I spent the year in Israel with that insurance money.
Wow.
So it was worth it.
It's certainly worth it.
It's a whole other story now.
Levinson didn't even get sick.
Yeah, we told Jose to not wash his hands. Yeah. All right. So האם יכולים לתבוע את הנהלת בית המלון שישלמו להם פיצויים על האוכל המקולקל שהגישו להם? Can you make a claim against the hotel administration that they have to pay for the spoiled food that was served? In other words, who's the responsible party? What's the level of liability? So hashelot l'diyun So the questions are as follows. First of all, we need to establish, if I feed you spoiled food and you eat it, can I be held financially liable? Or am I only liable b'dei shamayim? In other words, is it grama or is it direct nezek? Because I didn't stuff it in your mouth. I put it in front of you and you ate it. So is that called grama?
But did I know it was spoiled? This is a smell.
When it comes to nezikin, it shouldn't make a difference. When it comes to damages, it doesn't make a
And
difference.
could the eater know that it was spoiled?
Quite often you cannot tell.
That's what he's talking about, the eater.
No,
Yeah,
I'm saying, could the eater know it was? I thought you said it's a server know it was spoiled.
No, he's saying that you ate it and you're responsible for it as the eater.
You did the action, you did the action.
Well, they're paying for it.
Doesn't matter whether you
They're
knew.
paying for it.
Yeah, but
Is it the caterer or
but-
am I, is it the caterer or is it the hotel?
quite often the hotel is the caterer. And, like at the King
So like,
Solomon,
let's take the shul here.
right?
You know, Coleman's not the, is not the shul.
Kalma's not the shul, it's a separate corporate entity, yeah.
Right, so
So-
we be responsible.
But if you go and read.
Yeah, but people know that.
Then
They use it.
it'll be their chefs. that
The
are
agreement's with the caterer,
responsible
not with the
for
shul.
it.
It could be that the shul would have some liability. Marv, right? It could be that the
Yeah.
venue has some liability, even though they didn't prepare the food. Is
Yeah.
that-
Yeah, you could have the owner and you can have the caterer and you can have, the chef, all kinds of people could be liable.
Yeah, just sue everyone.
Yeah.
And of course, wouldn't it depend on
It's a
what?
spiral
Like
downhill.
if the fridge wasn't working properly and that was the responsibility
know.
of the property owner.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
it comes down-
that's right. There could be a number of factors.
That's
20
true.
years ago.
That there was food poisoning?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But I'm just
They sued the
asking.
shul.
if-
All right, so hold on. Let me just say the second question. Haim efshar lechayev be'umdina. Can the Beis Din do some kind of evaluation above and beyond the actual cost of the food to assess damages? That's what I think
Payment
is second
stuff
question. I'm not sure if that's what he means, but I think that's part of the question.
Like
Yeah.
lots of work ethics are recruiting, what do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, does it actually even start if the person who ate the food could have perceived that the food was spoiled and still went ahead and ate it? Because that negate,
That normally doesn't happen, does it?
Who would eat
Who-
food?
they can
what-
look
what-
at sour, whatever.
Yeah, what normal person is gonna?
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe they want to free trip to Israel.
They might get their wedding paid for.
I want a trip to Israel, hold on.
Yeah.
My son told the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember, what happens here
Stays
stays
here.
here.
What's that on
It's
YouTube?
online.
Yeah.
It's on the road agent.
It's online, yeah.
So I am what I am today, all because of that food poisoning. Thank you, Carlos, whatever the guy's name was. Okay, tshuva. Nira she'im hahezek haya b'birur min hama'achalim. Kigon, so he says, it seems as if, he says, that if the damage is clearly caused by the food, Kigon, shahayu nimsarim lema'avada, v'haya mitkale shahayu bo chayidakim hagormim lahar alat keva, b'shah sha'achlu et harucha. So you sent it to a lab, okay? That's what I believe what a ma'avada means. Wait,
Yeah,
okay,
the lab.
a lab. And we checked the food and it's swimming with bacteria that causes this kind of like botulism or whatever. Diesh l'chayiv et baalei hamalon l'shalem latoveya, pitzuyim kifi minhag. Then the hotel does have to pay damage because you verified that it's because of the food, based on whatever the standard of payment for that kind of damage is. Obviously, you got to also pay them back for whatever they paid for the food. He says, because the standard of care at a hotel is that when they serve you food, it has to be at a certain level of quality. That it fits, that fulfills the Department of Health's requirements. But like in other words, they can't serve 5-day-old eggs or whatever. And it's on that basis that you abide by the health department's standards that they rent from you and that they stay at your hotel. תכופות מדגם לבדיקת מעבדה, לראות שהם נקיים מכל מיני מזיקים. He says it is well known that the health department will regularly take samples from different establishments to test the food. I think this goes on everywhere, doesn't it? Like, does a hotel?
They test the food or test the cleanliness of the area? At all, inspectors. Yeah, but.
They don't test the food, they test the cleanliness. We have it here.
I think they test the cleanliness of the area.
Oh boy, are we in trouble?
Contaminated.
Let's get. Yeah, they better not catch that 6-month-old kugel in the freezer.
Increases.
They don't know about
That's
that.
the one on the page.
kitchen.
It's frozen, you can
They
keep
don't know about
reserving.
that kitchen.
Yeah.
That's nasty. Oh, no, that's the corporation.
So Robert, you say it's only for the value of my food, what about the damage, like maybe you took some troubles with the honeymoon because you were sick?
Right,
And you
so
took some other-
So he said that a person is entitled to damages according to whatever the standard in the in that social setting is. So, and we know that the inspection department, the health department regularly makes inspections to make sure that everything is up to standards. Now, what about the fact that you can argue that it's causative damage? Below dummy lamadiita begemara bebavakama. Anotein sam hamavet lifnei behemat chavero patur midine adam b'chayiv b'dinei shamayim. That if I poison my friend's dog food before he serves it to his dog and the dog dies, I'm patur midine adam v'chayiv b'dinei shamayim. Because it's a grama. Because I didn't put the food in the dog's mouth, right? The afilu peirot the avida de achla pater medine adam. He says, and that's true. Even if I put the poison in produce that I know the animal's going to want to eat, I'm pater medine adam. B'chenim natan la peirot shehem kesam hamavis kam patur. And it's the same. I'm not sure what the distinction is. But if you give the animals, if you directly give the animal produce that is dangerous for the animal, you're also going to be putter. Like, let's say you put chocolate in front of a dog.
That's a little grumble, he didn't put it in his mouth.
I didn't put it in his mouth.
That's
You give the dogs poison.
if the dog hasn't eaten in 2 days, you starve him, but then you put it on the floor, he's gonna eat it.
Oh,
It would not be a grummer.
But he says it's still a grama, even though you know the animal's going to eat it. He says, the hasam iri bedine mazik, the chol grama b'nezikin pater medine adam. He says, because when it comes to the laws of a mazik, we know that you're pater medine, if you do a grama, you're pater medine adam. V'hachazon ish histapek afilu ba'ofen shenatan letoch pia ayin sham. The Chazon Ish goes so far as to say that perhaps even if you put it in its mouth, but you don't force it to swallow, even then you might be pater. So why is this different from that case? Aval benidon didan kevin shekol bali hamalonot mitchayvim latet loorchim ochel nakim mazikim. He says, however, in this case, every hotel is required to serve food that is free from disease, free from harmful bacteria. V'imlo yitchayvu lefatzot et lekuchoteim. If not, then they're going to have to somehow financially remunerate their patrons, because that's an implicit contract that you make with a hotel when you register for the hotel, when you stay there and you eat their food. There's an implicit contract that whatever food we serve you is going to be healthy food and is not going to harm you. And therefore, Pasha techayovim lefatzotam kikach minhag hamedina. Because that's the standard practice, it's as if there's an implicit contract, And therefore, the residents are subject, the guests, I should say, are subject to compensation. Ella dibinidon didan ein shum hochacha sheha'ochel hu shehizik letoveya ella dahavi umdana. However, the issue at hand over here is, what if we haven't taken the food to a lab, but we know that a group of people staying at the hotel all got sick, and they all ate at the hotel dining room? So it's circumstantial evidence. Can we force the hotel to pay on that basis if the food was not taken to a lab and we identified bacteria in a microscope? That's the next question. That's what he means based on umdana.
Either you do it on the fact that the whole group of you ate the restaurant got sick, or that they actually do see the bacteria.
So that's right. That's the point we're making. In the first case, you've been able to verify that the food was tainted in a lab.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what if the food was not taken to a lab? They discarded all the food. All of the guests got sick. We have no more samples. It's all the garbage was already picked up. And now there's a class action lawsuit by the people who stayed at the hotel for that day, who all got sick. They want to sue the hotel.
Could be someone else in the hotel who was sick and just made them sick. Not the food.
It's possible. There are a lot of things that are possible,
There's a lot of things.
but with Joby, now you'll step in. Food poisoning has certain symptoms, and it's quite different from other types of infections and stuff like that. So would you be able to, let's say, could you testify in a court of law saying, based on the symptoms of this patient, diarrhea, vomiting, and all of the other?
So it's really about like the classic food poisoning is usually staph, and it's usually within 6 to 8 hours of ingestion. And basically it's nausea, vomiting, and then later diarrhea, and this all happens very quickly actually. So you can't come like a week later and say I have diarrhea. Everyone got diarrhea a week later. That would not be classic food poisoning. That would be more like some kid who ran his fingers through the chicken and you know everybody got E. coli, which is a different type of bacteria.
Okay, let's see. You see that? Okay, so we're talking about a staph infection, which comes through what? Just chicken that was left out?
That's usually bacteria that can, when it's not refrigerated properly, like egg or mayonnaise, chicken, not cooked properly, that would
Eat it sitting on a counter or something.
yeah, left out just too long. Either in the preparation phase or even afterwards.
Yeah.
So they have to constantly.
So you can prove either way. And
Well,
where
if you think it's a lab, you can, but what you're saying is clinically, can I tell?
Clinically, can you tell?
Yes. Everybody, you know, that night woke up in the middle of the night at 1 o'clock and we're all vomiting in the hotel, that would be classic food poisoning.
Okay, so there you go. So it may be more open and shut than we think. In other words, it's based on what Joby's just testified for us. It seems, yeah, it seems that this is more than just an umdana. It's more than just an assessment or an evaluation, but it seems pretty clear. Like you're saying, it's like it would be obvious to you as a clinician that this is what happened.
In your case, with your wedding, you didn't really take samples, they really.
No, but it was clear because it was like 6 hours later, or even less.
Yeah, but it was other people.
Were there a ton of
though,
people who got
right?
sick?
There were at least 25, 30 people.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Rabbi, in secular court, you would prove this in two ways. Either you would have the medical opinion evidence to establish the causal connection, or you'd make a logical inference. That's the circumstantial evidence. It's inductive reasoning. So if there's 30 people that came with the same symptoms that Joby says is obvious that that's what it is, the court could make a logical leap if it's strong enough to make that causal connection without the expert. So it probably would be negligence here, or substandard conduct based on the facts that so many people had the same thing from the same chicken.
Okay. All right. So this is what Rav Sharag is going to deal with now. Are there grounds in halacha when I don't have absolute laboratory evidence to hold the hotel liable. So he says, Isa b'Gemara, shor shahayaroa v'nimsa shor harug b'tzido. The Gemara gives the following case. You see a bull grazing, and then you find a dead bull right next to this bull. Okay? So you sort of say to yourself, hey, what happened here? Even though you do a forensic and you see that the dead bull died through goring, and you also know that the particular bull that's alive has a track record of goring other animals, we do not say that we can use that as evidence to hold the owner of the live bull liable. That sounds like a bunch of bull. Rebbe Acha Omer, Gamal ha'ocher ben ha'gimalim, v'nimtza gamal harug b'tzido, b'yadua shezeh hargo. However, Rav Acha says that if you see a camel, ha'ocher ben ha'gimalim, that is, I don't know what the word ocher means, but apparently he's disagreeing with the Chachamim, and he says that if you find a camel that is, I'm not sure what the word ocher, but he's behaving, I just looked it up, and it's,
Acknowledge.
yeah, that's not what it means in this context. All right, we'll have to, Gemara in Bava Kama Tzadi Gimel Amid Aleph.
Subsequent.
No, that's not what it means here.
What's the other word? They're Gemalim, right?
Yeah. Here, 1 second.
Is it possible late camels, they died?
No. Tzadi Gimel Amid Aleph is 93a. Here we go. Okay, Gamal, in the case of a rutting male camel that is rampaging among other camels.
Rotting?
Rutting, R-U-T-T-I-N-G. Does anyone know what that means?
Yeah,
Like you're rut.
It means it's in a hurry to find.
It's goring.
No, it's in a hurry to, rutting means it's in a hurry to find a female.
Really?
When a bull is rutting, you want to.
Well, look at that, I've been rutting all my life.
You didn't know it.
That's right. Okay, that in the case of a rutting male camel that is rampaging, that's what word ocher means. He's rampaging among other camels, and another camel was found killed at its side. It is evident.
Did you look up?
It is evident. Yeah, he's from New Zealand. That the sheep do that all the time.
You were a shepherd before.
They have mechanics at certain
Yeah.
times of the.
It is evident that this rampaging camel killed it, as such behavior is typical for a rutting camel. Therefore, the owner of that camel is liable. So it seems like you have a machlokes.
Sorry, it's saying so in the case of the camel, you are liable, but
Yeah,
in the case of the bull, you're not.
So it seems like there's a machlokes here. The first opinion is from the Chachamim. The second opinion is from Rabbi Acha. V'hatur pasuk kirabanan delo azli basar umdana v'chein pasuk morin b'shulchan aruch. The Tur and the Shulchan Aruch both paskin, like the case of the bull, that you can't hold someone liable just based on that kind of circumstantial evidence. Hold here. We'll finish this tshuva Mirz Hashem tomorrow.
It's like they're not the horns of the bull or not.